Yes, officer, that's right. Exactly like I told you 5 minutes ago. And 5 minutes before that. How many more times do I have to tell you the same fucking story? Just one more time so we can be sure of what happened. Just start at the beginning. Go back to Monday night and tell us what happened from there. This is a very serious charge you're facing, Carl. Monday, September the 1st. Elizabeth and Carl Jackson had gone to bed around 10 p.m, as they usually did on school nights. So tired were they from long days at their respective workplaces that it was not long at all before books were put aside, with barely a chapter read between them. Carl leant over and turned the light off with a grunt, and he and Elizabeth exchanged a loving good night before they each turned over to get some much needed sleep. Mondays are horrible, Carl thought to himself as he replayed the events of the day in his head. He had turned up for work tired and aching, and his inability to motivate himself made the day drag, with each hour that passed feeling more like a month as time stretched out like an elastic band. Just horrible. Carl tried to forcibly banish these thoughts, to quieten his mind and to come to sleep. Sleep, as it turned out, was not long in coming, and he was soon floating along blissfully on the currents of his dreams. He had always possessed a vivid imagination, and his dreams were invariably the weird and wonderful kind that are so often a shame to wake from. So fanciful are their characters and so outlandish are their settings. However, as happens so often in dreams, the fantastical quests and epic adventures playing out in Carl's head soon altered their course and turned down darker, more sinister roads, and a stifling disquiet settled heavily upon Carl's sleeping mind. In his dreams, as surely as in reality, Carl was in his own bed and sleeping next to his wife. In the darkness, he could just make out the vague shape of something scuttling across the ceiling directly above him. Frozen in terror, the stillness of the night matched the stillness in Carl's very bones as he watched, helpless, while the creature ceased its horrifying skittering and began to descend slowly toward him. The creature's silken thread extended, and the thing inched its way inexorably closer to his face in the pitch darkness, and Carl tried in vain to scream. Babe, wake up! Carl, wake up! Elizabeth was yelling as she shook her moaning and squirming husband in the dim light of her now illuminated bedside lamp. Carl's eyes sprung open at the sound of his wife's voice, but he didn't immediately know what was happening. He looked to Elizabeth with fear and confusion etched onto his face, and she elaborated. You were having a nightmare. You were moaning and thrashing around in your sleep. Was it the spider again? The mere mention of the spider brought the nightmare back to Carl's mind in vivid technicolor, and he shuddered involuntarily as he remembered. Yeah, he said, the spider. Again. Elizabeth regarded him with sympathy as she reassured him, not for the first time, that it was just a dream. There was no spider. Carl managed to reclaim his breathing and slow his pounding heart. Elizabeth kissed him gently on the forehead and turned the bedside lamp off in a bid to try to get at least a few more hours sleep in before the inevitable ringing of alarms beckoned them out of bed and to work once more. Every time, Carl thought, annoyed at himself. Every fucking time. The dream had plagued him for years, for as long as he could remember, in fact. It was the same every time. The spider would scuttle across the ceiling on the bedroom walls, only to descend toward his frozen, terrified face, and the fear he felt always prevented him from so much as moving a muscle or crying out in response. He had always woken up, or had been woken up, before the creature had actually made footfall on his skin. He genuinely feared what would happen if that ever changed.